good afternoon, and welcome. Welcome indeed, yes, to another edition of the Mark Mosey Show podcast. As we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life. Yes, call them today. This is key here in May. 1-800-747-FREE. That's 1-800-747-3733. It's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. Now, you can see my face on a Monday. I've been covering the Magic nonstop for about 3 straight weeks. It's finally over. So I haven't shaved. I look a little razzled today. Not this guy. He covers the Gators, and he does a great job with Hightop Sports. He's David Soderquist. David, how you doing today, buddy?
Good, man. I guess busy times call for busy measures, right? I've had those kind of weeks where, like, you just wake up and you're kind of just going to town every single day, and then, like, before you know it, you look like a chia pet in the face. So, I mean, I've had those kind of weeks, especially down there in Gainesville. We were there this past weekend for the spring game a couple weekends ago, and I'll say it was more electric than I've seen it at a spring game. Of course, there was, not a full stadium, but there was about a half a stadium there, which is actually really good for a spring game. And the buzz around Jon Sumrall is legit, and a lot of the Gator fans are really, antsing in anticipation to see who wins this quarterback battle and how the 2026 season starts and then finishes as well.
Okay, I just want to commend the Gators for this. They actually had a spring game. Thank you. Okay, thank you first off. Okay, I don't know what Florida State does anymore. I don't know. UCF kind of had some type of, 15 minutes of practice. I don't know what Miami does. So thank you, Gator Nation and the program, for at least having a game to give us content to talk about. Okay. Thank you so much. So
yeah, we get one once a year.
Yeah. Once a year, we get to see the team practice in person. It's great. All right. You bring up the quarterback position. Let's start there. Who are the guys on the roster? Who did you see? And who do you like? Maybe we start there, Dave.
Yeah, it was Aaron Philo pretty much with Tramel Jones all day. You saw a little bit of Will Griffin and the other quarterbacks towards the end of it, but the primarily focused quarterbacks were Aaron Philo and Tramel Jones. And if you looked at the quarterbacks and everything that I've heard before spring, we were always hearing, Philo has looked a little bit better in the practices, has a little bit more better command of the offense. You go to the spring game and you see a whole kind of little bit of a different story. Tramel Jones actually played very well in the spring game. I don't think he turned over the football at all, had a lot of big, deep throws into the end zone. And Micah Mays, a guy that I was hearing before spring, actually had 122 yards. He had 4 receptions for a couple of touchdowns that game. That was a guy that every time I turned the corner or asked somebody, I said, hey, man, watch this guy. He's making a lot of plays. And sure enough, it looks like Florida may have another wide receiver out of the plethora that they have in the backfield that might just be one of those kind of guys that you just didn't expect to be good, and now he's just all over the field. So it's a really good thing to see, besides the fact that you got Vernell Brown, Eric Singleton, a lot of the speed that Dallas Wilson's of your world, to have another wide receiver that can cast a net out there and catch a football, like that bodes well for your backfield. And but between both quarterbacks, you could tell in that game that Aaron Philo had a little bit better command of the offense, but he didn't play better than Tramel Jones. Tramel Jones played better than him in the spring game. So if you were to have to give a trophy to somebody for actually winning the game of the day, I would give it to Tramel Jones. And a lot of people have been saying that quarterback competition, albeit maybe somebody has a better command of the offense or somebody does something better than the other person, it's still neck and neck. If you talk to Jon Sumrall and you try to say, hey, who's the starter? He's going to tell you, hey, look, man, the team decides the starter here. It's like, he goes, I'm just watching it. Whoever commands it better than the offense and whoever does everything correct and who, the players always decide that anyway, right? Like you'll see posts from players or you want to get a quarterback in there that the players can get behind. So it looks like right now that the quarterback competition, to me in my head, it hasn't been decided. It probably won't be decided until after July or August or towards close to the season. But we've heard Sumrall in the past say, hey, look, when I was at Tulane, I had a first and a second string quarterback. I thought we were going to be first and second. Then Damian Mensah comes in out of nowhere and wins the starting job. So Jon Sumrall is not a guy that's like, hey, I got a preferred starter, and he just goes straight with him the whole rest. I mean, we've seen coaches just pick their starter right away already. Sumrall is one of those guys that's like, hey, this is going to be a competition. We're going to see who's going to win. And I think that is what really is going to bode well for the Florida Gator fans, because right now, if you look at the roster between all the quarterbacks, there's not a lot of college experience on there. Tramel Jones played in some games last year. Aaron Philo played sparingly at Georgia Tech. So, a lot of fans are just sitting there waiting and saying, hey, look, I don't know how this quarterback competition is going to go, But at the end of the day, we know Jon Sumrall is going to pick the best player.
Okay. If you were Sumrall, and look, it's only early May now. How would you do this? Would you name a starter week 1? Would you let them both play week 1? How would you handle this, David?
Yeah, that's a weird situation. To me, I wouldn't pick a starter right now, just based on the fact that like both these quarterbacks, obviously Trammell was a high school recruit that came into Florida. Aaron Philo's a transfer, but he has familiarity with Buster Faulkner's system. He's been in that system for a little bit as well, so that's probably why he has a little bit better command of that offense, because he just knows it a little bit better than Trammell Jones. But at the end of the day, whichever quarterback performs better than the other one that the team and rally can get behind, that's the guy I am picking, because you want your locker room behind that quarterback. You want your locker room behind your coach. And you also want to be able to put the best play that you can out there, of course. Now, I could see it maybe going into maybe the first or 2 games. Maybe they go back and forth just to see what's going on there. I mean, I don't know. I'm not the predictor of that kind of stuff. But it's like your first 2 games you're probably going to win those, right? Before you go into play Auburn, and then you got Ole Miss at home. So, that is a good time to really try to nail down some of maybe the weaknesses you thought that you had on your team, whether it's offense or defense, and kind of figure some things out. So I could see that probably happening towards, week 1, week 2, but by week 3, you probably are going to have a named starter going into that game with Auburn.
I have watched this team play for a long time. There's always been inconsistency at the quarterback position since Tim Tebow, who we can hear. I know, look, I get it. 2020 was a magical year, but it's one of those things. We've not had consistency 2-3 years in a row. I have no problem. First couple weeks, let everyone play, try to figure this out. So then the question is, you kind of said this, is this team get it ready for Auburn in late September? Is that the game plan if you're Jon Sumrall then?
I think it would have to be the game plan, but Jon Sumrall would straight up tell you as a coach, like, hey, I'm having them prepared week 1 going out there. So, yeah. But like, if you're thinking about it from I guess an outside perspective, a fan perspective, like us just sitting here with microphones in our hand, you would want a starter at least named by the time you play Auburn. You have a new coach going over there that brought most of his team over from USF, who beat you last year. Obviously, it was a different head coach for us when they beat us at home. But, Alex Golesh, he did a really good job at USF. He's brought a lot of transfers over from USF to Auburn. So they're going to have experience when you come into the swamp. They're going to have familiarity with a lot of the guys that they played with. Obviously, they're going to have some missing pieces and mismatched pieces over from the Auburn team from last year, and some of the guys that they brought in from the portal from other schools. But I mean, you're going to be playing a team that the head coach is pretty familiar with a lot of the players. So I would assume that, by week 3, you better have your team ready, all on the same page, ready to go, because that's going to be an away game too.
Okay. Here is the tough buy or sell for David then. Buy or sell, the Gators will have better quarterback play than they did last season.
Ooh, that's a tough one based on the experience. I would say yes, just based on the fact that Buster Faulkner is the OC, right? Buster Faulkner has a quarterback on that roster that has familiarity in his offense. If he winds up being the starter, you feel a little bit comfortable as a Gator fan. But if Trammell wins the job, I mean, you're still feeling comfortable, but you go back and you look at last season where Florida, I believe, only averaged 26, 27 points per game, if that. And you go back and you see some of the, Billy Napier being the OC, you see some of the innovative stuff that Buster Faulkner's done. Even in the spring game, you saw a little bit of a glimpse. It was more kind of dumbed down because you don't want to give a lot away in those spring games. But, I think the explosiveness and some of the getting down the field, especially with who you brought in from the portal, I think you're going to see a lot more from that. So I do believe that there is a belief that it could be better this year. But it's all just a wait and see thing. But on paper, when you look at OC, you look at the offensive line coach, I mean, you should see some improvement there.
Hey, how about your quarterbacks also go to physical class and talk to their teammates? Okay?
Yeah, that would be something, right?
How about that?
Yeah, I mean, it feels great when you can get all the players to go to practice and do the gauntlet and make sure that they all function as a team. It's something that should be available to every college football out there.
Here's my thoughts. Like, you look at that LSU game last year. If they would have just had a competent play caller and a quarterback who just made simple plays, they win that game. That's how crazy. But here's the question then, is the follow-up. Just being average is not good enough for Gator Nation. don't they want a dangerous, scary, attacking offense to play at the Swamp week in and week out?
Oh, absolutely. If you were to ask a Gator fan, what would they have more, defense or offense? They're going to tell you 99% of the time, probably offense, because they're used to the old Steve Spurrier days. They're used to the fun and gun. They're used to, seeing their heroes and some of the Heisman winners from that generation, Spurrier being one, Danny Werfel being one, and, Tim Tebow coming in with Urban Meyer. They're used to that high flying offensive attack, but they're also used to a really potent defense as well. Florida, as long as they've had a good offense, they've also had a really great defense. And I think in the years that you've seen Florida not be that great, their defense has still been pretty deadly. And I think that Florida had, for a while they were hanging on defensively, couldn't get anything offensively going. And then once they got something offensively going with Dan Mullen, the defense just seemed to drop off. So it's like, Florida, I've always said that you can't, with Florida, it's like you can't stop a nosebleed. You plug up one side of the nose, the other nose starts bleeding. So hopefully, and in my opinion, I'm hoping that Jon Sumrall is the guy that can stop the bleeding whatsoever and get this Gator team back on track based on all cylinders. Because I'm really excited for this defense this year. You got a lot of returning pieces coming back, especially at linebacker in the defensive backfield. D-line, you're going to have to shift a little bit because some guys went to the NFL, but like the names that you're coming back on this D-line, especially a Jamari Lyons, that's seemingly he can't get a break in some of these practices. If he comes back to just 90% of his form, that's going to really boost and bolster the defensive line here too. So you got a lot of returning pieces. You got your LJ McCrae's and all that stuff who's done really well in these practices, I've heard too. So, I'm not trying to trail off so much right here, but Florida, you would think that Florida fans would want more of the fun and gun offense that they're used to in the Spurrier's days.
All right, you talked about those wide receivers a second ago. All right, do you have a depth chart for me? Because it feels like we got 7 guys on the roster. We're gonna make it, but like, who's your 1, 2, 3 go-to guys in your eyes, David?
I would say right now, just based off of what I saw in the spring game, you'd have to put Micah Mays there. Micah Mays was just a ball hawk in that spring game. Vernell Brown, Dallas Wilson, if he's healthy, you put him out there too. I like Bailey Stockton too. I was on a show probably about a month ago, and they told me to pick my X Factor on the team. And X Factors to me are guys you probably don't really know about, but that could cause a lot of havoc and just names that you haven't seen yet. And I thought Micah Mays for a second, but then I was just like, Bailey Stockton pops out to me as a guy that could come in here and be an X Factor in that slot. He shifts really well. He's not your speediest guy on the field, but the guy can cut like it's not like Kadarius Toney, but close to it. And he can get open a lot. He reminds me a lot of Xavier Restrepo, not the fastest wide receiver, but he finds ways to get open on the field. I think that's kind of the guy that's going to be your X factor. I think that 1-2 punch between Micah Mays, Bailey Stockton, 2 of the guys that you haven't really seen on Florida field, mixed with Eric Singleton Jr., Dallas Wilson, Vernell Brown's going to be pretty deadly back there if Buster Faulkner can get that offense going.
Okay, so you went with 4 or 5 there, right? But then still, do you feed Jaden Ball the ball 20 times a game? Is that
you have to? Oh, you have to. I mean, just based on what he did last year. I mean, he had 1,170 rushing yards. There was games that he wasn't even the starter. They switched him in and out with the backup running back. So, I mean, you look at that USF game, you saw that first drive with Jaden Ball. They go right to the end zone. I think he rushed like 50 yards in the first drive. And you didn't see him for like the rest of the half. And you're just scratching your head like, man, if we just kept him in there, he'd probably beat USF easily. That's a guy that, I mean, Florida hasn't had a 1,000-yard rusher since Kelvin Taylor in 2015. And this guy rushed for 1,170, rushed for over 240 yards against Florida State. I mean, I felt like Jaden Ball was still running after the game. So you have to feed that guy. That guy is a monster to feed. And I also like the guys that they got backing him up, the Evan Pryor, that the transfer from Cincinnati, a 4.3 runner. He's one of those guys that we haven't had a running back that's had that speed enough to take it to the house if they get open and wide open in the backfield. And you also got London Montgomery, the East Carolina transfer, who's really good in the return game. He's the backup running back. I'd say if you had a position that Jon Sumrall did really, really well in this portal, I would have to go running back just based on the guys that he brought in just to run behind Jaden Ball.
All right, before I let you go, you guys did a great job with the spring game. And look, check out Hightop Sports for anything you missed, okay? You guys were great on there. So you got access, like one-on-one access. You're talking to Coach Sumrall, right? And look, compared to the last coach, who I liked, but it's like anyone with a pulse is going to give more energy, right? So I like where he's like, hey, I'm trying to re-energize the fan base. I'm trying to get back in the community. I get that. what do you think of Coach interacting with him a couple times now?
Yeah, just based on the interactions I've had with him just off camera, and everybody sees everything that's on camera. You see it live and all that stuff. We were hanging out with him at the 40, and we're talking off camera. He's fixing to leave. I tell him, I'm like, look, man, I appreciate everything for letting it. I said, we got your back if you ever need anything, right? This guy, when he looks at you in your eyes, you can just see the intensity, right? The intensity is just in his eyes as a person. I think the realness that you get from Jon Sumrall, you don't see anything fake when you talk to him, and you don't feel anything fake. And there's not an ego there. There's more of just business as usual. Not really even business as usual. It's more of just business and, hey, we got to win. Like, literally, I believe we were sitting here. I can't even remember how this conversation got up, but I overheard him saying, oh, no, we're winning. Like, he didn't say, like, I think we're going to do this. I think we're going to do that. He's like, no, we're winning. He's like, we are going to win. So he is dead set on business, wanting to win. But like, I think the biggest thing that I got from him was just his trustworthiness and somebody without an ego. I mean, we've had coaches coming here in the past. Dan Mullen, great dude, had a little bit of an ego. Jim McElwain, great dude, had a little bit of an ego. Billy Napier, great guy, had a little bit of an ego, couldn't get out of his own ways. Jon Sumrall is a guy that came in here. He said, I'm not going to hire my friends. Didn't hire his friends. Some aspects of the team, he hired them in different smaller roles because, obviously you work with somebody and you think that they're capable of doing something, you'll bring them over. I mean, but this guy came in, brought Phil Troutwine, brought Buster Faulkner, Brad White from Kentucky. I mean, this is a guy that literally is all about business. There's no egos there. There is just a winning mindset. I got to win. And I think that is really what stood out to me is somebody that's, been around head coaches. They're, pretty much covering this thing. Is he's a very different animal. And the biggest thing I like about him is he's embracing more of the independent podcast nation. And we've gotten a lot of access just based on that and stuff that we never really even asked for. We just kind of would just come up in an interview or something like that. And he's allowed us to go into the indoor practice facility. He's allowed us to do a lot more things that maybe some other staffs haven't done. So I think him embracing the independent podcast media and embracing more of the social media world has really helped him out too.
I like you said, some at the 40. You make it sound like it's some bar in Gainesville. No. You ran the 40 at the indoor practice. All right, shut up. What was your time? We need to know. What did you run? Come on.
Well, I always have a saying that if we were on Hightop, I don't run 40s. I drink 40s now. But I had the slowest 40 time there, which I thought I would. I'm 41 years old. I ran a 6.25. So if you ever need somebody that's like running away from something, like you're in a haunted house, just leave me behind. I'll just fight the ghost. You guys can run.
Okay. All right. So 20 years ago, what would you have ran? Come on.
Hopefully in the mid fives, low fives. I don't think I would run anything in the fours. I wasn't the best runner when I was younger. David Waters, he's 43. He ran like a 5.5. So he told me he's even ran like a 4.7, 4.8 when he was young. I believe it now, seeing him at 43 running 5.5.
Yeah, I'm going to say something about David Waters, who thinks he's super cool.
Oh, boy.
Because he is. David's a great guy.
Yeah. I call him Dave number 1, and I'm Dave number 2.
No, he's David. No, you're both David. The hell with this. Okay, I don't like the 1 or 2. Okay, so I'd say a couple years ago I did in like a 5.7. In my 30s, I did the 4.9. In my 20s, oh yeah, don't worry.
We had a guy that was 24 years old that did a 4.94. So he was the fastest 40 time that day. Everybody else ran between like 5 and 6.
Yeah, in my 20s, I know this is how you impress women at the bar. You tell them these stories from 20 years ago. Yeah, in the 4s, in my teens and 20s, I could do it in the 4s. Now, the problem is I'd run a route and get killed, right? This is the problem if we're doing it.
What you do is you tell them you ran like a 4.2 or 4.3 in school, but then when you show them the tape, you speed it up a little bit so it looks like you ran faster.
Like 1.5. It's that.
Yeah, go a little bit 1.5 speed. Add a couple seconds to it.
I just want to say this, like my advice for the coaches, because I've noticed this over the last couple of coaches, you are going to age like a U.S. president being the coach of the Florida Gators. You look one way. We should do this every time. The photo when they first get the job to 3 years in, you are going to age. It is one of the most demanding, high-pressure jobs in all of sports. Gator Nation wants to win. They want to have a great team, and I don't blame them. So do I.
Yeah.
It will look. We've had coaches leave after the Georgia game because it's too much after a while. So if this guy wants to be great, it's right there on the table for him, right? But it's going to be demanding. You know this better than anyone. So we're going to find out. All right. Hightop Sports. I want to see the video you running that 40 in the 6.
Okay? Oh, you don't want to at all.
That should be a shirt. I drink 40s, not run 40s.
I told Shelton that. That's exactly what I told him. I was like, we need a shirt that says, I drink 40s, I don't run 40s. That's it.
Yeah.
Make it my own shirt.
When you run for Congress, that's going to be the shirt and your platform. David, thanks for your help. Have a great day, and I hope I can get you on again. All right?
All right. Thanks, Mark. Appreciate it.